The Cuban president, Miguel Diaz-Canel, has told the opening session of the UN General Assembly that the only way to guarantee worldwide stability is to address the root causes of the problem. He was speaking at the Special Peace Summit dedicated to the memory of Nelson Mandela.
To achieve a world in which peace prevails and to achieve a peaceful solution to conflicts, we must address the underlying causes that create them. The millions who are excluded by an unjust economic order, those who are hungry, those who have to flee wars and the lack of opportunity, to seek lands of abundance, itself built on the pillage of our people. They are the victims of a silent segregation.
Diaz-Canel said the best way to honor the memory of Nelson Mandela is to promote the development of the most vulnerable countries.
There is still a lot to do to make Mandela's dream come true. The only worthy tribute is to boost the development of disadvantaged countries. Acts more than words. Cooperation, not intervention. Solidarity, not pillage.
The Special Peace Summit was called on the first day of the General Assembly to mark Mandela's centenary. He's been honored as one of the world's greatest leaders. Members have highlighted his fight for human rights and social justice. As part of the celebration, a life-size statue of Mandela was unveiled in the United Nations headquarters. The South African president, Cyril Ramaphosa, attended the unveiling. The statue has been erected in honor of what would have been Mandela's 100th birthday. Trinidad and Tobago's Foreign Affairs and CARICOM Minister Denise Moss paid tribute to the anti-apartheid leader at the Peace Summit.
Nelson Mandela is one of the most eminent leaders of our generation. We salute him as a freedom fighter and an icon of reconciliation. Mr. Mandela's life and the legacy testament to the purposes and the principles enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations. That is, to maintain international peace and security, to promote and protect human rights.
Maria Fernanda Espinosa is the first Latin American woman to chair the UN General Assembly. This Ecuadorian politician assumed the presidency of the General Assembly in early September. Espinosa says she wants to promote the United Nations values for peoples across the world.
It is a privilege, an honor, but also a great challenge. We women always have to prove that we are able to do it. Here are big expectations regarding our capacity of promoting another kind of leadership, of changing the world and solving problems.
At the UN, the U.S. President Donald Trump has said the global drug problem is a public health and national security threat. Some 129 countries have signed on to a U.S.-drafted pledge on this issue. They promise to develop national action plans to reduce demand for illicit drugs. The Venezuelan foreign minister has warned that a number of countries will try to raise the issue of Venezuela at the United Nations to distract from their own problems. Jorge Arraza was speaking outside the UN headquarters in New York.
Get ready to see how the United States, Colombia, and countries of the Lima cartel are going to use the topic of Venezuela here for everything. To hide the corruption scandals, the increase in narcotics production, their failures in the peace process, and their falling popularity at home. They'll use migration in Venezuela to try hide it all.
The Spanish government will file a complaint against OAS Secretary General Luis Almagro. This to protest the strong language Almagro used against former Prime Minister José Luis Rodríguez Zapatero. The OAS Secretary said Rodríguez Zapatero was a moron regarding Venezuela. Zapatero has played a prominent role as a mediator in the attempts to reach an agreement with the Venezuelan opposition. Bolivia's President Evo Morales has paid a visit to his Venezuelan counterpart, Nicolás Maduro. Maduro says the meeting was aimed at strengthening ties between the two countries. Morales was on his way to New York to attend the UN General Assembly. This weekend saw the arrest in Venezuela of one of those who led the failed assassination attempt against President Nicolás Maduro last month. 2 other people involved in the attack were also detained.
Buenas tardes. The news came in a press conference given by the Minister of Communication, Jorge Rodriguez. He confirmed that Henribert Emmanuel Rivas Vivas, alias Morfeo, had been arrested. He said that in his testimony, Morfeo had implicated the opposition leader Julio Borges. He'd also said that the embassies of Colombia, Mexico, and Chile had been involved in his failed attempt to escape.
Henribert Emmanuel Rivas Vivas, alias Morfeo, was captured by Venezuela security services. He was directly involved in carrying out the attempted assassination of President Nicolás Maduro, which also targeted the armed forces high command, the political leaders and ambassadors who were present at the parade on August 4th to celebrate the anniversary of the National Guard.
Rodriguez also reported the arrests of Ángela Lisbeth Esposito Carrillo, alias La Perrera, who transported and hid alias Morfeo, and also of retired Colonel Ramón Santiago Velasco Garcia, alias Coro Coro, who was going to take Rivas to Colombia.
The drones were set to be launched from the vehicles. Apparently, the signal inhibitors interfered with the signal of the remote controls, and that caused them to explode before they reached their target. They evacuated the place, and I was in Carabobo Park when we lost touch with everybody. The park was occupied by the guard, so we left. I saw that the authorities were acting fast, so I decided to stay in Caracas. All my partners went to the meeting point in Barquisimeto to plan the escape to San Cristobal, and then to Colombia. I got a number from a person in Spain. On August 5, I tried to reach the number, and she told me I had to go to the Chilean embassy. From there, they were going to take me to the Mexican embassy, and then to the Colombian embassy. And from there, they would take me across the border.
The confessions of those arrested and the investigation of their cell phones revealed their links to Air Force Captain Layret Salazar, who took part in the coup of 2014, known as the Blue Coup, and who had escaped of her house arrest thanks to the cooperation of alias Coro Coro. The opposition leaders Julio Borges and Juan Requesens have also emerged as being behind the attack. They liaised with immigration authorities in Colombia and provided logistical and financial support to Maria Antonieta da Silva, alias Genesis, who is in Spain, and Maria Isabel Rodríguez Briceño, alias Maye, who is on the run in the United States.
We have a lot of evidence that involves Julio Borges in the attempted assassination. It is perfectly clear. You should ask the journalist Patricia Poleo for the evidence that links Borges to the Blue Coup in 2014.
So far, a total of 28 people have been arrested in connection with the attempted assassination of the President of the Republic and almost all of his leadership team. Requests have already been made for recapture and extradition from Spain, Colombia, and the United States of those who organized and financed Operation Phoenix, as the attack on August 4th was called.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. Welcome back. New protests against the government are taking place in Argentina. People are marching in capital Buenos Aires to reject the agreement President Mauricio Macri signed with the International Monetary Fund. They are angry about austerity policies as they say this only brings more suffering to the people. Meanwhile, a 36-hour transport strike started on Monday. Trains, buses, subways, and flights will cease to operate during the strike. Airlines announced that nearly 80,000 passengers will have to cancel or reschedule their flights. Banks and schools are not working either. Our correspondent in Buenos Aires, Edgardo Esteban, has more details.
Labor unions and social organizations have gathered in Plaza de Mayo to begin a 36-hour strike against the economic measures of President Mauricio Macri. The measures include tariffs increase, unemployment, and to defend the public educational system. They are also protesting against the negotiations that President Macri is holding in the U.S. with the International Monetary Fund. This massive demonstration shows a union between different sectors to defend workers' rights and demand new measures to face the economic and social crisis, which is affecting many people across the country as a result of the policies taken by the government.
That was Edgardo Esteban from Buenos Aires, Argentina. An indigenous social leader has been killed in Guatemala. Juana Ramirez Santiago was a leader of the indigenous Ixil community. She was shot 4 times after she denounced several threats. She was a prominent figure in the defense of women and human rights. Journalists have rallied in the Mexican state of Chiapas after the murder of their colleague Mario Gomez. They are urging authorities for justice and for their lives to be protected. Gomez was killed from 3 gunshots as he was leaving his house. He had previously reported threats he received. Gomez is the 9th journalist killed so far in 2018.
Mario had already been threatened previously, almost 2 years ago. He came to Tuxtla, handed in a criminal report. He had his photo taken with the prosecutor, Raciel López Salazar. Only 1 or 2 months later, they offered him security. Then they didn't listen to him.
The president of labor union Coparmex has been murdered in the Mexican state of Chihuahua. Uriel Loya Deister was shot by 2 men from a car and a motorbike when he was eating with his family. Authorities are investigating the causes of the incident. And still in Mexico, authorities have been carrying out DNA tests after a truck full of bodies was found in Guadalajara. Dozens of people from across the country are heading to the city hoping to find their missing relatives. They can complete a genetic profile in the hope to find a match. A community in Mexico City uses La Faena, an ancient social organization system that helps them reinforce their identity and face their problems.
Maria Jimenez has many reasons to be proud of her new house. She lives in San Gregorio, a village in the south of Mexico, DC. It was with all her efforts and the help of the community that allowed that to happen.
It was a dream with real results. We're seeing those results here. We're really thankful.
In the Xochimilco region, where ruins of damaged buildings 1 year after the 2017 earthquake remain, solidarity between people replaced broken promises from the local government.
We have been waiting for government's help and it never arrived. So when they said we're going to build this, the first thought was incredulity.
The cultural centre has received funds from the community and a group of neighbours known as Chicuarotes, named after a local source. The centre celebrates its rich history.
People from Ejidal organize themselves. It is a village that has survived because they have organized themselves.
For these people, social work brings people closer together. By doing so, they go back to an ancient Mexican practice called La Faena.
All people are part of a working day. They all participate in agriculture tasks, construction. Everyone participates in anything that the community has decided to elaborate.
La Faena is a tradition that many ancient Mexican villages still practice. People from San Gregorio say that it's thanks to this ancient method of organization that they can still face their everyday problems.
The funeral for Botham Jean took place in his native St. Lucia on Monday. Jean's body was flown home over the weekend for the funeral. He will be held at the Minor Basilica in Castries and will be laid to rest at Chalk Cemetery. He was killed earlier this month in his Dallas home by a police officer. Calls for justice resonated at the funeral service. Dallas police officer Amber Geiger has been fired over the shooting of her neighbor, Botham Jean. In a statement, police explained that Geiger was dismissed after an internal investigation found the officer engaged in adverse conduct when she was charged with manslaughter. The firing comes after widespread calls for action against Geiger, who had been on administrative leave since the shooting. National Hurricane Center advisories are being discontinued for what was Tropical Depression Kirk. This is because the system lacks a close circulation that is a prerequisite for tropical cyclone status. The remnants of Kirk are located east of Windward Islands. The system will be monitored over the next few days in case regeneration into a tropical cyclone should occur. Protests erupted in Haiti over the misuse of nearly $2 billion set aside for the Petro-Caribe program. Demonstrators demanded an inquiry into allegations of fraud by several government ministers. Security forces were on hand to defuse tensions. The program allowed participating countries to buy cheap oil with an extended repayment plan at a 1% interest rate. So far, no minister has been convicted. We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
Acompañamos a los pueblos que resisten en cada una de sus luchas.
Somos esa ventana que se abre para visibilizarlos entre fronteras.
Thursdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Maldives opposition leader Ibrahim Mohamed Solih has won the presidential election. Solih secured 58.3% of the vote against the incumbent president Abdullah Yamen's 42%. The results came as a surprise to many, as the outgoing president had launched a crackdown on dissidents in the last few months. He had either jailed or forced into exile almost all of his main rivals. He had put strict restrictions on campaign coverage by the opposition media. The economic freedom fighters have called for the removal of all apartheid colonial statues and symbols in South Africa. The news came on the day South Africans celebrate Heritage Day. A statement from EEF said such symbols perpetuate the comfort of racist and white supremacy. It also added land is the most important heritage upon which all culture is based on. Heritage Day in South Africa is meant to be a day to celebrate the diversity in culture, language, and traditions of the country. Each year, locals display their various cultures in their traditional clothing, songs, and dance. People across the country stepped out in style to show pride in their heritage. Originally, the day was known as Shaka Day in commemoration of King Shaka Zulu and has been celebrated since 1995.
Made a huge contribution towards development of education in South Africa. Although as missionary he came with a specific focus to spread the gospel amongst the indigenous people, the Khoi, and the best way to start was actually teaching the people to read and to write. And Schmidt established his first school in the interior, 1737.
Canal is a very old town, and behind Canal there's a huge story to be told. And now that it's turned like this huge age, I'm actually happy that I can be part of it.
Mushfika Botha of Mojo Media has more from Johannesburg.
As South Africa celebrates National Heritage Day, so too does Canal celebrate 280 years of the establishment of its Christian missionary. As South Africa works towards reconciliation, social justice, and social cohesion, Canal, like many a South African town with its rich heritage and history, has a huge role to play.
We thank Mushfika for that report. An Egyptian court has upheld death sentences for 20 members of Muslim Brotherhood. They are convicted of killing more than a dozen policemen during violent unrest after the military overthrow of President Mohamed Morsi in 2013. Egypt's courts have sentenced hundreds of people to death or long jail terms over the unrest, including Morsi and several other leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood movement. The Israeli government has ordered the residents of the Palestinian town of Khan al-Ahmar to leave their homes before the 1st of October. The Israeli forces say they would not only demolish the houses themselves if the villagers don't leave, but would also make them pay for it. Its 180 inhabitants decided to stay. The UN, the EU, and human rights organizations have condemned the measure. Our correspondent in Cairo, Nayara Tardo, brings us more.
Israel continues to harass the inhabitants of the village of Khan al-Ahmar, threatening to demolish their homes before the beginning of October. On Sunday, the Israeli army entered this village to serve eviction notices to the people, warning them that if they didn't demolish their own homes, the army will do it for them. About 200 Palestinian refugees live in this village, all of them registered under the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees. International bodies such as this have asked the Israeli government to put an end to this harassment. For its part, the Palestinian government has said these actions are an attempt against the establishment of a sovereign Palestinian state.
British Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn has called for an end to arms sales to the Saudi-led coalition. He was speaking at a French meeting of the Labour Party's annual conference in Liverpool on Sunday.
Whilst I obviously want us to send all the aid necessary to deal with the consequences of the war and the bombing, the best thing to do is stop the war altogether, and to start that by begin that by ending our supply of arms to the Saudi coalition that is undertaking that bombardment.
A bus has been washed away due to heavy rainfall that triggered landslides and flash flooding in India. As the monsoon season is ending, floodwater swept away an empty bus while parking in the town of Manali. Rescue operations had to save around 20 people in the same region, but no casualties were reported. About 70% of Indians' annual rainfall comes from the monsoon. Hindus have paid tribute to god Ganesh in Mumbai. Devotees danced to music of drums and threw red powder around the figure. They also immersed the elephant-headed deity into the Arabian Sea to mark the last day of the Ganesh Kartu festival. Ganesh is known as the god of arts and science and the lord of abundance. And with that story, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, find them on our website at telesurtv.net/English. And also join us on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Estefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.
Enjoy our programming from Monday to Friday, where you'll find the best information